For some living in Great Britain between world wars, it was a time of prosperity filled with leisure and wealth. However, for many, life was filled with poverty and unemployment. Just like the rest of the world, the Great Depression forced men to search for jobs that did not exist. England was not only afflicted with domestic strife, but also with imperial turmoil. In India, peaceful resistance had spawned into violent outbursts. Meanwhile, growing fascist regimes were emerging in Italy, Germany, and Japan. Many scholars have conflicting views on how England negotiated and should have negotiated these international issues between world wars. When Neville Chamberlain became Prime Minister of England in 1937, war was in the air. However, neither England nor France was in a position to combat the German forces, nor were they very concerned when Hitler retook territories that were once a part of Germany. It was no secret that Germany had begun to build up its army and munitions, also against sanctions set up by the League of Nations. But the League was a mere shadow at this point, with no real power to resist Hitler's military advancements. Regardless, Neville Chamberlain traveled to Germany in September of 1938 to discuss Hitler's intention.
The German Führer and Chancellor and the British Prime Minister have had a further meeting today and are agreed in recognizing that the question of Anglo-German relations is of the first importance for the two countries and for Europe.
Chamberlain completely intended to negotiate peacefully with Hitler and avoid war. However, according to Bronstein and Harris, Chamberlain's own writings betray a combination of regret and doubt about the course he was taking, but he returned from the Munich conference proclaiming peace with honor. Chamberlain would be blamed for his lack of action until his death in 1940. There are some who defend Chamberlain, however. According to Roy Douglas, we are driven inescapably to the conclusion that, granted the situation existing in September 1938, Chamberlain did about as well as anybody could have done, and criticisms leveled against him were only credible because the government was unable to make its own best case in reply. In 1961, A.J.P. Taylor wrote a controversial article which critics claimed apologized for Hitler's behavior. Either way, Taylor proposes an interesting view. Taylor defended himself, stating he was only attempting to explain Hitler's success. According to Taylor, there were 6 million Germans living in Austria to whom national reunification was still forbidden by the peace treaties of 1919, 3 million Germans in Czechoslovakia, whose wishes had never been consulted, 350,000 people in Danzig, who were notoriously German. Furthermore, Taylor claims that Hitler never intended to engage in military conflict with England. Ferguson also states that in Mein Kampf and his later dinner table monologues, Adolf Hitler repeatedly expressed his admiration of British imperialism. Ferguson goes on to say Hitler insisted that he had no desire to bring about the destruction of the British Empire, an act which would not be of any benefit to Germany, but would benefit only Japan, the United States, and others. Chamberlain was forced to declare war on Germany and was soon replaced with Winston Churchill. Churchill had always been a critic of Chamberlain and described appeasement as one who feeds a crocodile hoping it will eat him last. Obviously, as proven throughout the course of World War II, Churchill was a different leader than Chamberlain. Churchill did not believe that German occupation of the Rhineland, Austria, and Czechoslovakia was acceptable at all. From Taylor's standpoint, Hitler was completely justified in his reoccupation of German lands and rule over those who were German. Taylor also claims that Hitler was so successful due to his shrewd talent in waiting for power to be given to him. Taylor states in reference to Hitler's appointment to the Chancellery, "He did not seize power, he waited for it to be thrust upon him by the men who had previously tried to keep him out." Taylor's claim is very true. The Nazi Party did not seize control of the Reichstag through a coup. Rather, they built up a presence in the Senate which grew year after year. Furthermore, Hindenburg, once an opponent of Hitler's, called for his chancellorship until his death in 1934. Similarly, Taylor claims that Hitler did not design the agreement at the Munich conference, rather it was Chamberlain's design. According to Taylor, here was a program for the pacification of Europe. It was devised by Chamberlain, not thrust upon him by Hitler. Although Taylor's viewpoint is one that we can discuss openly as scholars today, 70 years after the end of World War II, when he wrote his article, it was only 16 years after war's end. Many patriotic Americans who fought or supported the war effort could not have been apt to agree with Taylor, hence his negative criticism. No one could have predicted how the events leading up to World War II would transpire, least of all Adolf Hitler. Paul Schmidt, Hitler's interpreter, has reported, as Albert Speer has done, on how frequently Hitler recalled the risks he had run over the Rhineland, which he described as the most nerve-wracking time of his life, because the military resources at our disposal would have been quite inadequate for even a moderate resistance. What we have learned from appeasement and its effects has shaped the way many political leaders negotiate with militant regimes. We can no longer appease those, like Hitler, who seek to destroy in order to conquer.